Today, let's review some basic principle of economics, which is about the scarcity. Scarcity is one of the fundamental. So we all have limited, let's say we all have limited resource. So like time, money, natural resource, whatever. But most of the time, for example, if you want to consume, like you want to consume food, beverage, or spend more money on the leisure time, then you will face the scarcity or the limited resource, which is the budget, right? It's about the money. You don't have enough money to spend on all of them or on as many as possible on them. So also this applies to the production because we have so-called the limited resource, or scarcity applies to limited import or limited labor, limited natural resource, right? Or I call this imports. So it's also about money, about the production cost, but just keep in mind this is limited because we have the basic model regarding the demand and supply. If we are more focused on this, the theory or the consumer theory, we only focus on like how the customer or consumers satisfy themselves by purchasing, and then with the limited budget constraints, right? And then on the other side, it's about the production. So we switch our role to a producer, right? A small business or a big company, doesn't matter. We are like play as a producer. So we will face like the production decision. As we always talk about the economics is regarding the decision making, right? We want to make the decision. We want to optimize our decision. In this case, that I will split this into two separate, let's say, topic. One is about the consumption. One is about the production. So let me start with this opportunity set, or let's say the opportunity cost. In this case, that we mean that the opportunity cost is everything that there is a cost. So I borrow Professor Strickland's video to show you. He explained very good in this part, and then regarding the opportunity cost. But in that case, it's more like everything has a cost, or we call this the opportunity cost. It's easy to understand, but sometimes we don't use this all the time. For example, if you, let's say, spend 1 hour here to study this class, and then this 1 hour you can do other things. This is, we call it opportunity cost. Or you spend this hour to work, right, to make some money. So usually it's very difficult to use the dollar amount of the dollar value to measure this opportunity cost. But anyways, that keep in mind that this is something that you have the decision, or you have the option to spend the time or spend the money somewhere else. I would say that we will face this, let's say, the choice, or let's say the opportunity to spend either on a pizza, okay, and then on let's say some drinks. It can be coffee or can be other things, okay? So we have certain amount of money, and then we have to spend on both of them, or either only on pizza or only on drinks, or both of them. So we are, first of all, we are facing this so-called the budget constraint. We have the limit, right? We don't have enough money to consume over my budget constraint. But on the other side, that I can allocate my money, my budget between those two products. But honestly, that you can apply to others, like as many products as possible, right? So we are not to make a decision between two goods. Actually, we are making decision among many goods, right? So it can be including the drinks, can be food, or you want to buy an iPhone or anything else. So this is more like we are facing this daily, decision-making scenarios all the time. How we optimize our decision, as I mentioned before. Here, I want to draw a diagram for you to make it clear. Just assume that we have these two goods. We want to make a better decision by, we call a, let's say, indifference curve, or we call this as our utility. Okay, if we have more money, and then we can enjoy higher utility. It go to the outward, right? So in this case that you see that if we have more money, we can spend more money on this. Let's say make it like a tangent lines. So we spend more money and then we can have like a more satisfied result. This is, we call it the utility, okay? Or you can call this satisfaction. But in this case that since we have limited or we have the budget constraint, the maximum we can spend is somewhere along this curve, along this line, okay? So we say that I maximize my utility by get this tangent point, okay? But any point below that, for example, we have like a point below that. That means it's below my budget constraint, means I haven't maximized my utility yet, okay, given this budget constraint. So we all face the budget constraint for sure, okay? Different level, but we all have the budget constraint. And also there's like the opportunity cost. You can, choose either of them, one of them, but you have to give up or trade off. There's no free lunch, okay? We also facing, we call it this is more like we call it marginal utility. What is the marginal utility? So by consuming, simply speaking, by consuming one more, let's say, product, one more unit product, we gain additional utility. This is called the marginal utility. But the diminishing marginal utility effects means that you consume more and then more. Although you have, increase a little bit your marginal utility for every unit you consume, but the rate or the marginal utility is in a decreasing. For example, if you are very hungry, you eat one slice of pizza, very good, right? 2 slices of pizza, okay, so it's almost make myself full, right? I would be satisfied after 2 slices. But if I give you the 3rd slice or even 4th slice, what about the 5th slice? You will feel, bad because it's too much. Although you can still eat it, take it, but it become like somehow your utility, your satisfaction is in a decreasing rate. Okay, so this is, we call it the diminishing marginal utility. This is applied to both consumption and then production. Here's one concept I want to review with you, which is called the production possibilities frontier. We call it PPF. Usually we use the acronym, right? The acronym is called the PPF. So this is like a diagram to show you how we allocate our resource on 2 goods. So in this case, we just assume that we have the country, okay? We have 2 goods to produce. One is, it's on the aggregate level, one is the healthcare, one is education. So we want to allocate our resource to produce both, or produce healthcare product more, or to produce education products more. It's more like how you spend our resource or capital in this case. It can be anything, right? So simply speaking, we want to spend money on both products to produce or to generate more healthcare service, or let's say education service. So in this case, the line is like you can see this is more like a concave curve. It's quite curvy. It's different from the budget constraint. The reason, let me tell you the reason behind that. For the consumption, the budget constraint, usually it's like a linear relation. Why linear relation? It's the price times the quantity consumed of product A plus the price times the quantity of product B. But in this case, because our production function is not a linear form. So in this case, we usually use this like a Colbert-Douglas production function. But here, I just want to show you that there is also a so-called the opportunity cost, meaning if we want to produce more of the healthcare products, we have to give up the education products. There's also like the line that we call it the slope in between. For example, for this B, there is a slope. The slope indicates the opportunity cost between these 2 goods. again, we also want to make the decision how much we produce. We want to see that whether we are maximize our production. Again, if we see like the point here below this curve, that means we are not yet optimize our production. So we are lower than the optimal level. But also if we have increased our resource, in this case, like we have more money to spend. So this curve will shift outward as well. So let me draw like two lines, okay, two curves. So these two curves make sure that we can produce both products more, right? Because we have more money or we have more resource to invest into this production. So again, that I borrowed Dr. Strickland's video that you can take a quick look, and then in the following video, further information regarding so-called the law of diminishing returns. So this is like equivalent to the law of diminishing marginal utility, or the diminution of utility, right? So based upon the production function, that even if we give more and then more of the input or the resource, the production rate is decreasing. It's the same. For example, that I was, a long time ago, I worked in a Japanese restaurant. It's a hibachi restaurant. So I was a hibachi chef, all right, believe it or not. But the thing is, like, if we hire like 3 chefs, so it's good. I mean, it's optimized. The production is, the productivity is optimized. But imagine if we hire more than 3, we have 4, 5, or even 6. Do you think our productivity is increased? It's okay to have 1 more chef, but the productivity is not that high anymore, right? Because we have limited table. We don't have all people like to cook at the same time. Production has its let's say 3 kind of big topics. It's regarding the allocative, how to say, decision, which is what input we use. And then the second one is about the production, so how we produce. And then the last one is the distribution. Who will be our customer? Who will be our target customer? All right, so I leave this positive and the normative statement economics. So I also use a video, borrowed a video from Professor Strickland. You just use that video to understand. Just simply speaking, it's about the statement regarding economic topics. So if it is like an objective one, we call it positive statement. If it is like a more subjective, we call it normative statement. So in our, as an economist, we always say that we need both. We need a very objective, show you the facts. Also, we, sometimes we discuss or we show our opinion. We need to, build up our knowledge and the skill set based upon those facts, right? We needed to understand, we needed to explain. But also we needed to express our opinion, or we needed to predict the future. So this is more like a little bit subjective because you don't know yet. It's not yet happening. So today I just stop here, and then I will see you next time.